Welcome to the deep dive. We've pulled together some really interesting material today. It all seems to circle around this fascinating idea that you can actually get a sense of what someone's thinking, almost like reading their mind, just by paying really close attention.
That's right. Yeah, this stuff dives deep into nonverbal communication.
Right.
The subtle interactions. It's about looking past just the words someone says, trying to pick up on those, well, deeper cues.
Exactly. So, okay, the mission for this deep dive. Let's pull out the core techniques, the insights from this material you've shared, give you some practical ways maybe to connect better, understand the people around you a bit more. It's less about psychic stuff
Oh, definitely.
and more about like sharp observation and, well, connection.
Okay, let's unpack the first key idea this material presents. So one really fundamental concept here is the importance of aligning your, well, they call it energy or frequency, with the person you're talking to.
Okay, align your frequency. That makes me think of tuning a radio, like the sources mentioned.
Exactly that analogy.
You have to be on the same frequency to actually hear the station clearly. If you're off even a little.
It's just static.
Yeah.
Or you miss it altogether.
Right.
Precisely.
Right.
And this material gives us some, practical ways to think about how to do that. It starts with just consciously observing, really noticing their body language, how they move, their posture.
So not just sort of seeing it, but actively registering how they're standing, the way they hold themselves, gestures, that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. And just as important is tuning into their tone of voice, the speed they're speaking at. And once you've noticed these things, the idea is to subtly kind of match or mirror them.
Subtly. Okay.
Yeah. So if they talk fast, maybe you speed up just a little bit. If they're slower, more deliberate, you adjust your pace too.
And why is that so crucial, this mirroring thing? What happens if you don't align, if your frequencies are off?
Well, according to this material, if there's no alignment, it creates this distance almost immediately. Sometimes even a subconscious, like, aversion. It can make the other person feel subtly uncomfortable. You might not even know why. And that discomfort makes them sort of close off, put up walls. And that just prevents any real connection or, influence.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, because that connects to that feeling we've all had, right? You meet someone, everyone says they're great, super accomplished, whatever, but you just don't click. There's this weird disconnect, and you can't quite put your finger on why. This material is suggesting that feeling that could just be a mismatch in this energy alignment.
It's a really interesting way to frame it, isn't it? And getting this alignment right, it's not the whole story, but it seems to lay the essential groundwork, that psychological foundation for anything deeper to happen.
Okay, let's shift gears then. There's another key idea from these sources, and this one uses a pretty specific example. What can we learn from a really good barber or hairdresser?
Yes, the barber hairdresser secret. The core idea here is looking at how the best ones interact. They don't just jump in talking at you, right? Filling the space with their own stuff.
Yeah.
They observe first. Maybe start with a really general, low-stakes question. Weather, weekend plan, something easy. And then, this is the crucial part, they just listen.
Right. They deliberately don't make it about themselves. They let the client lead. They show real focused interest in whatever the client says. The material really hammers this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's more than just being polite. It's about actively demonstrating interest and empathy. When someone shares something, even a small thing, a thought or feeling, you get it, you relate.
Like the example they give, someone complains about the time change making them tired. Instead of just nodding or changing the subject, you actually validate that specific feeling. Like, ugh, yeah, that winter time change is rough, isn't it? It really throws you off.
Exactly. You connect with their experience, even if it's not a big deal for you personally. And the result, the sort of magic of it, is that by showing that genuine interest, that empathy, you create this really safe feeling space. Psychologically safe, you make them feel comfortable enough, valued enough, to actually open up, to share what they're really thinking and feeling.
Whoa.
They end up telling you everything you need to know, basically, without you having to push or guess.
That's quite counterintuitive, isn't it? The way to understand someone better is to talk less, listen more, and just validate. The material even suggests, like, watching skilled barbers or hairdressers as a practical exercise. See how they adapt to each person, how they gather info just by listening and showing they care.
It really shows how much we can learn just by shifting our focus outward. Okay, so if simple observation and empathy are powerful, what about the actual words people use? This leads us right into the third key technique from the sources. This one focuses directly on the specific language someone chooses.
So wait, not just the general idea they're conveying, but the exact words they pick.
Precisely, yeah. This material puts forward this really interesting premise. The words a person uses. To them, those are the most important words in the world. They see their own way of thinking, their unique expressions, as valuable, as, intelligent.
Okay, that perspective shift alone is pretty powerful. So the technique then is you actively listen for the specific terms, phrases, even slang they might use.
Yes. And then, quite deliberately but subtly, of course, you weave those exact words back into your side of the conversation.
Okay, let's use the example from the material because that really clarifies the difference. They contrast a general response with using the person's actual words.
Right. So imagine someone says, ugh, I've been under so much stress lately, just feeling really pressed at work, and now the presentation wasn't submitted on time. A generic response might be, yeah, sounds tough, like you're under pressure and couldn't get it done. Okay, that shows you heard.
But it's not using their words.
Exactly. The material contrasts that with saying something like, wow, it sounds like you're dealing with a lot of stress, really feeling pressed at work, and the fact the presentation wasn't submitted must be a real headache. See the difference?
Yeah, I do. You're echoing stress, pressed at work, presentation wasn't submitted, their actual phrasing. And why is that so effective, according to this material? Using their exact words.
Because when you repeat someone's precise language, it validates their whole way of thinking on a really deep level. It sends this clear signal. I'm not just hearing you. I'm understanding you on your own terms. It makes them feel truly heard, understood, respected. It confirms that their perspective, their way of saying things, is important. It's like saying, I get how you see it.
That validation part seems key. And the material notes this is a big technique in, say, sales, right?
Absolutely. Understanding the customer-specific language, reflecting it back, that builds trust almost instantly.
Makes sense. Because they feel understood, so they share more.
Exactly. It shows you're not just, passively listening, but actively comprehending and respecting their unique viewpoint and how they express it. And yes, it almost always encourages them to open up even more. So when you put it all together, the sources seem to be outlining this kind of powerful trilogy for deeper understanding. First, that foundation of aligning your energy, your frequency. Then showing that genuine interest and empathy through, deep listening.
Right.
And finally, this technique of reflecting their specific language back to them.
And bringing it all home. This material makes it pretty clear these aren't just tricks, are they? Not manipulation tactics.
No, not at all.
They're presented as tools for building real, authentic connection, for gaining genuine insight, by making the other person feel fundamentally valued, actually heard, comfortable enough to really express themselves. That's how you get that deeper understanding. It's a pathway, like the sources say, to sort of open their heart and mind.
So we've taken a deep dive today into how things like aligning your energy, really listening with empathy, and even echoing someone's specific words, how these can build connection and reveal, deeper insights into what they're actually thinking and feeling.
Yeah, the material makes a really compelling case that these seemingly simple things, techniques we often overlook, when you use them consciously with intent, they can make people feel incredibly understood, valued. And that creates a space where they feel safe enough to open up, maybe in ways they wouldn't normally.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Like, how much are we missing in just our normal day-to-day interactions? How much information, how much potential connection just flies by because we're not tuning into these subtle things, not making that conscious effort to meet people where they are. Precisely. Which raises maybe a provocative question for you listening right now. What could you discover? What kind of connections could you build, maybe unexpectedly, if you just decided to consciously practice one of these ideas this week? Whether it's the energy alignment, or the deep empathetic listening, or reflecting their language back. Just one.
Definitely something to think about as you go about your day. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.